Hello and welcome to the Knicks-Verse. Today, we are going to do a special episode, trade news update, because we're 48 hours away from the trade deadline and things are starting to percolate, as Clyde would say. How you doing, JD?
Doing great. I'm excited about this report.
Yes, it's good to finally have some news. And what is the news? Well, according to Ian Bagley, the Knicks are not looking to disrupt team chemistry with a major trade at the deadline. They're going to let the cake keep baking. I love it. Leon Rose is playing this perfectly because he is actually has taken all the leverage back. Because you know what Leon Rose used to be? He was an agent. He worked for the biggest agency in the world, CIA. He used to fight and claw for his players, and now he's doing it for Knicks Nation, for the fans, for the team. It's awesome. And he's playing it perfectly. It's what we've been talking about all along, JD, right? We have been saying Knicks are sitting pretty. They don't have to rush. They don't have to. I mean, if things turn out, if the value of players drops, Leon can snatch. If the value stays high, Leon can sit back. It's perfect.
I agree. And I'm ecstatic because there's been a lot of talk leading to the deadline about what the Knicks will do. Should the Knicks make a big move? And there's a hot debate on, whether the Knicks should trade some of their prime assets, which are their premium first round picks. And the fact that they're not looking to trade major assets. And that's the language, major assets. And I think it's pretty logical to think that equates to their first round picks this year, being that they have the Dallas first round pick, they have their own first round pick. And as we're only 48 hours away, you don't know where those picks lie still. Like there's no clarity just because the Mavericks are still middle of the pack. They're in the playoff picture, but anything can happen, especially in the Western Conference. And the Knicks, with their second half schedule, they can fall off. I don't expect them to, but they can fall off. And so I'm excited about this. It gives me very much enthusiasm about the future and the way that this front office is operating.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. I this is really encouraging. Part of the report also touched on Austin Rivers, which I actually thought was pretty cool. It seems like they discussed with Austin that they were going to trade him, and he has actually been pretty chill about it all. Kind of just sitting back to wait. They're going to find a good place for him, something that works for him. That just shows how this organization is putting their players first, or at least unequal with the needs of the team as well.
Yeah, and the thing about that development is I think is also positive news for the Knicks from a PR standpoint and from an organizational standpoint, because Austin Rivers has been a good soldier. He's been a professional. He hasn't complained. Even when we just played the Sixers and the media asked Doc Rivers what was his thoughts about, the situation, even Doc Rivers declined to comment. And so all around, I think that's good news for the organization because it just shows that they're on the right path. Previous regimes, previous years, this would have been a mess. The players would have complained, and then mainstream media, would have killed the Knicks and said, look at the type of culture you're building. So the fact that the Knicks are looking to reward him and they're looking for a situation for him that would suit him best with a playoff contender, it's just, again, it's just a positive development for the Knicks. And I think that those are the type of things that move around the league when you talk about, has been a hot debate, players wanting to come here and other players around the league, starting to see the changes that are happening from top to bottom.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the best thing is that I haven't even heard that 5-letter word that starts with a D. Dolan. No Dolan.
Staying far away.
Yeah. But let's talk about Eric Fournier. So it looks like the Magic and Celtics have been talking about a swap of Marcus Smart 2 first-round picks for Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier. To me, this sounds a little odd, but what are your feelings about it, JD?
I just think that, I've been saying it all along. From the moment that you saw the Drew Holiday trade in the offseason, and obviously James Harden, which is warranted. But, the markets change. And just like contracts are being given out like crazy now in today's market, trades as well, where it seems like everybody's asking for 2 first-round picks for even decent to adequate players. Like that's that's the starting negotiation point. And so, there's also a report that Aaron Gordon and the Celtics are discussing a deal, 2 first-round picks. And it's like 2 first-round picks.
Without Fournier.
Individually, but 2 first-round picks on the Evan Fournier side, 2 first-round picks on the Aaron Gordon side, and it's like, really? So, when you connect that with the Knicks, you start to see why things have been very quiet on the Knicks front, other than rumors, and you start to see the report from Ian Begley that the Knicks are not looking to trade major assets, and I'm excited about that because you know why? The Celtics are in the Atlantic Division, so it connects those Celtic news, Sixer news, Brooklyn Nets news, everything Eastern Conference news.
I'm gonna pop the standings up.
Yeah,
there we go.
That relates to the Knicks because there's gonna be head scratching deals here in the next 48 hours. Somebody's gonna give up first round picks, and I can't wait because that will be.
There's been a sag to the middle. There's like a sag to the middle right now. There's so many players. There's so many teams that are competing for those. Like Miami's kind of cleared up, but the 5th to 10th spot. It's like it's anybody's game at this point. So that's probably why we're going to see what you're saying. Someone might make a big move.
Right. And someone may panic. And you have organizations like the Celtics that have a lot of pressure. You have organizations like Atlanta, who just made a coaching change, that wants to salvage their offseason spending spree. So you may have a few teams here that give up draft capital, and that's only going to be advantage Knicks. Because the Knicks still could make the playoffs. I know a lot of people, and this goes back to Ian Begley's report.
You're making me dance, JD.
A lot of people said the Knicks are not going to make the playoffs because of the second half schedule. And I totally get it. That second half schedule, which we've started already, we've seen already, it's brutal because, it's just a lot of the top teams. And now you start to see these teams are game planning against you. However,
look at last night. Look what happened last night.
Look at last night. It's one of the examples. Every Eastern Conference team that's in contention around, 8th, 9th, 10th slot lost. Except for the Charlotte Hornets. And the Charlotte Hornets are the only team that won, and they lost LaMelo Ball for the season. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to make the playoffs. The Bulls lost.
But Rozier, I think it takes Rozier and Graham off the table.
We'll see, because at the end of the day, like Graham, even though they have that injury, Graham is still a free agent. And so, they have.
It's going to be hard. It would be hard for the organization. It would be hard for them to give up on those two guys. I mean, they beat the Spurs. That's not an easy thing. Was it in San Antonio? I don't know.
Yeah,
but either way, they beat this. Yeah, so they beat them. If they can keep stringing some wins together, and they're in the playoff hunt, I mean, it would be hard for them to justify trading.
If they don't make a move, they may be a play-in team, but that LaMelo Ball impact is the real deal. So they may fall off. But here's the point. Here's where we're getting at.
But he's out indefinitely.
He's out.
So
for the season.
That means, indefinitely. He could, if they make it into the playoffs, he could come back for the playoffs. The broken wrist. But that you never know. A guy depends on how a guy heals. Depends on where the break is.
But the idea is, though, whatever the situation turns out with LaMelo, the point here is the fact that even though the Knicks have a tough second half schedule, you can see these teams are still losing. Like, we've played already 6-7 games, since the All-Star break, and the Knicks haven't fallen off.
It really softens the blow of that Sixers loss.
Right, because and people need to pay attention to that. Yes, the Knicks have a second half schedule that's extremely tough, but also do other teams in the East. And none of these teams in the East are also world beaters. And as you can see from night to night, they're losing against a lot of these other teams. So the Knicks might make the playoffs by default.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're not looking to trade major assets and they can still slide into the playoffs, right? Then in the offseason, you reevaluate your draft capital, see where Dallas lands, see where you land. And then you make a decision in the offseason if you want to draft these picks or if you want to make a bigger move. And I think that's what's brewing. You heard about World Wide West and all this back channel stuff. To me, if the Knicks are not looking to make any major trades, well, they can still make a trade, but not trading major
thanks for
assets.
the lead in, because that's circling back to my other little take. This is a beautiful play by Leon, because he can sit back and who knows, he might get a call Wednesday night. The Bulls may just change direction and Levine could be back on the market. The Wizards, they may suffer a terrible defeat tonight to the Knicks. You never know. I mean, we know World Wide West has been pushing for Beal, and then suddenly, I'm just saying, when this is not an active trade market, but yet teams may decide to change direction at the last second, or they may be thinking about it, but they haven't really announced it, and things are working behind the scenes. So you never know. I feel like this could possibly, I mean, they're saying they're not going to make a major trade, which is great, but they're also savvy. And if the market drops on these other players, the Knicks are, like we said, we have cap space, we have picks, and we have players. So you still might see something. I'm not going to, I'm not saying it's likely.
You're definitely right. Because the key thing is major assets. That's the report by Ian Begley. In other words, you can still get an Oladipo for a second round pick and a young player. You may still be able to get Lonzo Ball for, a few young players and a few second round picks. So it depends. Like you said, teams can wake up and say, you know what, we're going to lose this player in free agency. Let's get what we can get now. And so that's the key of the report. Major assets. It does not mean that the Knicks won't be able to get a big name player. It's just they won't be trading big assets to get that player. So that is still possible.
Yeah. The Athletic, they posted that the Pelicans, they're willing to discuss a Lonzo trade. Everyone knows that. The thing is that Lonzo, the dynamics are that basically he was going to want $20 million plus annually. So they're not sure they want to pay that. So they're waiting to see if someone else is going to come in there and wow them with an offer as the market. So they're sitting in a good situation as well, the Pelicans.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything. And then they can decide in the summer they could, the market, who knows what could happen. Lonzo may be overvaluing himself, and the Knicks offer $18 million. And then the Pelicans match that, and then they got Lonzo for $18 million, who would still be a good trade asset later on in the year. So that's the situation there. Let's jump to the low.
No, I was just going to say, as funny as it sounds, I wouldn't want to be David Griffin right now because I have my own personal theory. I don't think Zion is there past his rookie contract. And
that's a whole other. We'll get into that.
Going to be there, so I wouldn't want to be David Griffin. I don't know that they're in a great place right now.
And you know what? David Griffin's a smart dude. He knows it. Let's touch on the low report that came out yesterday about the Knicks and the $15 million cap space that they're looking at ways to use it, to weaponize it. Right now I have up on the screen the Oladipo snapshot there, and Kyle Lowry was even mentioned. This is interesting. They're laying low on it, but they do need to use that cap space. I think only Oklahoma City and the Knicks actually have available cap space that they have to use, or else that money gets redistributed to the rest of the players that are on the current squad.
That means Kevin Knox.
I'm sure that would make them happy.
It means Kevin Knox gets $1 million.
Yes. But let me tell you, the Oladipo, I really, unless they can get him on the cheap, and they're saying Miami and the Knicks are the two that are monitoring the situation. Here's the problem with Oladipo. Even though he's a multi-level scorer, he's coming off an injury. There's a chance that next season, the injury is he's recovered even further from the injury and he starts getting back to his all NBA-ish self. Even if he got to like 85% of what he was, that's pretty good. For comparison, in 2017 and 18, he posted a usage rate of 31. Okay. And that season, Oladipo scored 115.9 points per 100 possessions. But this season, he's at 101.9. So, something to keep an eye on.
I think the Knicks, with that report is just due diligence. Everything to me connects towards the Ian Begley report, who's a credible reporter, by the way, coming from ESPN now going into SNY. So I know he's bringing some of those sources with him to SNY. He's been pretty on point with a lot of his reports. I just think this is just, the Knicks looking at their secondary resources, second round picks, cap space, just investigating everything to see what avenues they can take to add an impact player, to add someone that could be a rotational player, whether it's Oladipo, who probably be a starter, or someone else like a Terrence Ross or some of these other players that we discussed in our trade video.
Yeah, there could be some names, in the weeds there that
just
we
have to keep.
But
you have to look creatively, and I think that's what they're doing with that to see what happens.
All right, well, stay tuned to Into the Knicks, Into the Knicks-Verse channel. It's I got up really early here. I'm out here in LA. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that thumbs up for us. If something breaks, we'll jump on and get you guys the information.
48 hours.
48 hours. 48 hours. All right. See you around the Knicks-Verse.